So sorry for any confusion, folks. We're going to be starting the meeting now. We want to be really conscious of your time. But thank you all for joining. Welcome so much to the PHL Pre-K exhibits information session for FY 2024. We are really excited to be able to start the year with you all. I'm Carrie Lee. I'm the contracts manager with PHL Pre-K intermediary at PHMC. And also helping me lead through this presentation are our contracts coordinators, Theo Margulies and Brittany Maines.
Hi, everyone.
Morning. Okay, so moving right along, please have your phones and microphones muted. Type any questions in the chat box. We will be answering them along the way if we can, but there will be breaks as well during this presentation for just questions. So type away in that chat box. This presentation will be recorded, and the recording and the slides will be included in the weekly newsletter. For our agenda today, we should take around about an hour or so. We'll focus mainly on exhibits. This session is for new PHL Pre-K locations. We'll go over expectations around exhibits and what you just need to submit in order for us to prepare your PHL Pre-K contract. We'll go over a preview of the submission form in our new system called Open Water. We'll share some information about waivers related to curriculum, outcomes assessment, and developmental screenings, and talk through remote learning plans and staff qualifications as well. And then we'll round out the presentation with some resources that are available and next steps. Please remember that all of these have due dates that you need to adhere to in order for timely review and processing. So now I am going to throw it over to Joy Weems. She's going to tell you all a little bit about PHL Pre-K intermediary and us at PHMC.
Thanks, Carrie. So some of the roles of the intermediary include administration of contract with providers. So we are responsible for issuing your notice of award, your actual contract, and also slot allocations. Also, PHMC is responsible for enrollment oversight, meaning that we approve enrollments. We also verify your enrollments, as well as monitor enrollment targets. We disperse flow of funds to PHL Pre-K providers. We will talk a little bit more about this later, but every provider will submit a monthly invoice, and based on that monthly invoice, you will be paid for the number of children who are enrolled and attend during that month. PHMC is also responsible for data collection, management, and analysis, meaning that we collect the data from the system, we review it, and then we also look at the trends to determine supports and how we should move forward in supporting you as a PHL Pre-K provider. The intermediary also monitors fiscal and compliance, meaning that we will support you with all of the fiscal reports that you have to submit throughout the year, as well as support you in meeting compliance and what we call contract deliverables. The intermediary also has strategic partnership responsibilities, meaning that we are very intentional about collaborating with entities within the PHL Pre-K system, such as the Office of Children and Families, the Spark Quality Support Center, as well as organizations outside of PHL Pre-K to ensure that we are providing the best supports to you that we can. And finally, program reporting. So the intermediary is also responsible for collection of program and child level data and reporting out on the outcomes of the PHL Pre-K system. Next slide. So I'm going to now talk a little bit about the provider services team. As Carrie said, my role is provider services manager for PHL Pre-K, and I support the team of provider service specialists that you will work very closely with, as well as the coordinators who support the specialists. And some of our responsibilities with the system include providing high quality provider services. And we do that through monthly check-ins and quarterly in-person site visits. And so you will consistently be in communication with your provider service specialist, because your provider service specialist will be your primary contact for being successful in our system. We also provide accurate and timely enrollment-based payments to you. I also already mentioned that the intermediary is responsible for overseeing the submission of monthly invoices. And so with those submissions, we also make sure that you receive your payments in a timely manner. Clear definition of PHL pre-K contract expectations. So during the monthly check-ins and site visits, your providing service specialist will be able to really explain and describe the contract expectations and really support you in being able to meet those expectations. We also provide site visits, which I already talked about, and monitoring. And so as we go through the rest of this session, you will hear about the exhibits, and ultimately you will attend a contracts training where you will hear about all of the expectations of the contract. Your provider service specialist will help you in being able to interpret that contract and the expectations of that contract through the monitoring. And finally, identifying supports needed and making referrals. So when we come out, we will have lots of discussions with you about what's going well, what's not going well, what are you struggling with in being successful in the PHL pre-K system. And based on that discussion, we will ask you if you would like us to make a referral to our Quality Support Center, where you will talk to your coach, and then your coach will support you in being able to meet the contract expectations. I just want to highlight that we are offering office hours to support you with the contract exhibits. You should have received an introduction letter from your provider service specialist with their contact information. So please feel free to reach out to your specialist at any time with any questions that you have. Thank you. I'll turn it back over to Carrie.
Okay, and now you're going to hear from Tracy about the Spark Quality Support Center.
Good morning, everybody. It is still morning, I think. I'm Tracy Childress. I'm the director of the Spark Quality Support Center. And as Joy mentioned, we work with the intermediary, with PHMC, to support you. So we support you in a number of ways. I think there's a slide that shows that. You will have a coach, a Spark coach, and you should be receiving an email from them soon introducing themselves. That coach will offer you an intake survey, and they'll use that survey with you to curate a learning plan that meets your needs. And we have a help desk you can contact during business hours. We have an events calendar with trainings that are free to you and your staff with PQAS credits. And you can even submit a request for trainings on your site on your professional development days. So we really like to just be here to support you with all things contract related and also just classroom related and business related to really meet your needs. We have a team of 30 folks. And again, be on the lookout for your coach's introductory email soon. And I think I'm going to share a little bit later in this training about how we can support you with exhibit specifically. Is that right, Carrie?
Yeah, that's right. You'll see Tracy again at the end of this presentation. Thanks, Tracy. Okay, so now I'll provide an overview of exhibits and that process. So exhibits are documents that you'll need to complete in order to prepare your PHL pre-K contract. Providers, oh, you can move to the next slide. Providers need to submit exhibits for each PHL pre-K site. We know this can be a lot of information, so we've developed some resources to help. We've developed a checklist and guideline handouts to assist you in developing your exhibits and understanding what's needed to be included in each of them. These include links to samples and also templates and other resources that are available. So we'll show you what these documents look like, and also where we've dropped links to them in the chat. So first we'll look at, just give a brief overview of what the contract exhibit guidelines look like. It lists each exhibit and what you'll need to include in each one. Yep, so it goes through all of the exhibits that you'll need to develop as a new provider location. Okay, and then we can go to the exhibits checklist. This has all of the exhibits listed out again. You'll see links to the templates here, links to samples as well. and also has below that some of the fiscal forms that you need to fill out as new providers if you haven't already, and some other information that will be asked for in the open water system. Okay. So now, continuing on preparing for contracting, exhibits need to be submitted through a new system, which is called Open Water. We will not accept any exhibits through Childware. This is mainly for folks that are returning providers. There's a different system this year. New providers need to submit all the exhibits. For returning providers that had contracts last year, that's the 2022 to 2023 school year, the number of exhibits you need to submit may be less. For some exhibits, you'll be able to attest that they haven't changed since FY23, and you won't have to upload them. I know this session is mainly for new provider locations, but we do have some returning providers on the call as well, so I wanted to highlight that. The submission deadline for all exhibits is going to be July 31st, 2023. We will be sending out a link to the open water system shortly. A video tutorial as well will be available. But we wanted to let you know to please take the time to prepare your exhibits now. You don't need to wait for the link in order to start preparing your exhibits and developing them. The open water system will mainly ask you to upload exhibits, so you'll need to develop all of those exhibits outside of the system. The next few slides will show a list of all the exhibits and what you need to submit if you're a returning or a new provider. All providers will need to submit the exhibits on this slide. We'll go through the list of exhibits, and then after that, we'll go into each exhibit in detail. So first is the line item budget for your slots awarded. You should be using the template that's appropriate for your program type. We have a center version and a family version available. If you're a group, you'd use the center version. You'll need to submit your copy of your valid Pennsylvania DHS license or your Department of Education license if that's applicable. Insurance documentation, and we'll go over the requirements in just a little bit. And you also just need to submit your program calendar, noting start and end dates and how you'll meet 180 days of PHL pre-K service. For returning providers, you may not need to upload these exhibits if they haven't changed since last year. For kindergarten transition, the kindergarten transition plan template, we wanted to let all providers know that the PHL pre-K template is available. If you're going to be using this template, you're able to indicate that in the open water submission system, and you don't need to upload anything. If you'd like to develop your own, that's perfectly fine. And you could upload your own template there. For new providers, you'll need to develop and submit the rest of these exhibits on this slide. They include the program daily schedule, showing how you'll meet 5.5 hours of instructional time each day. And you'll also need to submit some policies, which include the attendance policy, an enrollment and waitlist policy, family grievance policy, and suspension and expulsion policy. And again, sample and resources are available for all of these. So all providers also need to submit the subcontractor questionnaire. This is a form which asks questions around business status and workforce diversity as well. And you'll also be asked to submit a code of conduct if you have one available, and we'll go over this in the next section. Fiscal documents are required for new providers to be able to set up direct deposit. As Joy mentioned, your provider service specialist reached out to you already, and hopefully you've been able to submit these. And if not, please get them in as soon as possible. Documents need to include an ACH credit authorization form, sending a copy of a voided check, and then also your W-9 form. And if you are a returning provider and any of this information has changed, like your banking account information or change in ownership, please also send in this information as well. And now I will throw it over to Theo to talk about the exhibits process.
Hi, so this is an overview of the exhibit review process. So first, providers will upload their exhibits to Open Water by July 31st. And then PHMC will be tracking the exhibit submission. Exhibits will be reviewed by either PHMC or Spark, and we wanted to let you know this because either one, PHMC or Spark, may reach out to you if revisions are needed to any of your exhibits. If revisions are needed, please complete those as soon as possible and resubmit those documents through Open Water. So PHMC will review and conduct follow-up for your program calendar, daily schedule, attendance policy, enrollment waitlist policy, line item budget, DHS license, and the certificate of insurance. And then Spark reviews and conducts follow-ups on the program grievance policy, suspension and expulsion policy, and the kindergarten transition plan if you are not using the PHL pre-K template. After we have all of the exhibits, then PHMC will prepare your contract and send it to the providers. Now, here are just some general tips for completing the exhibits. Make sure that you use the appropriate program name, which is PHL pre-K and not Philly pre-K. Make sure that you use the correct title for the city, which is OCF, the Office of Children and Families, and not the Mayor's Office of Education. And documents in Open Water must be submitted in Word, PDF, or Excel format. If you try and upload a document in a format that's different than that, you will get an error message. Okay, so now we're going to go over each exhibit in more detail. And as Carrie said, all of these criteria are also in the exhibits guidelines document. So for the line item budget, make sure that you complete the template that corresponds to your site type. There's a center and family version available. And if you're a group provider, please complete the center template. Complete the top portion of the form, including the site name, the person completing the form, and the submission date. Complete the slot allocation and total budget amount based on your notice of awards. Make sure that the total amount matches the total in the line items, and any budgeted amount outside of the ranges needs justification. Okay, so here is a sample of the line item budget. So this is what the form will look like. Make sure that you are filling in the top part, and then also just make sure that the total budgeted amount here matches the total budget amount at the bottom. And then in this example, these two that are highlighted are outside of the range. So for the program related benefits, this person put 0, which is outside of the allowable range. And then for their justification, they put that they don't give themselves any benefits. When you fill out the form and if there is something that's outside of the allowable range, the justification is required field will be highlighted. So you will know that you have to fill that out.
And Theo, can we go back to that slide real quick, please?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, and what is it that, what field is going to be highlighted? The percentage field is what highlights in the pink?
The E, the column E.
Column E, there will be a
justification is
highlight.
required.
Okay, just so
Yes, that
folks
will be
know.
highlighted.
Okay, and I just want to also point out for folks too, that the exhibits checklist, the link to the exhibits checklist has been dropped in the chat box. So if folks want to click on that, to follow along and to see what the full forms look like and any of the samples, I encourage you to do that during this session. Okay.
Thank you, Leslie. Yes, that's important. Okay, so the next exhibit is the DHS license. So you will need to submit your current DHS license or your Department of Education license if you have one. Please make sure that your license is not expired. We understand that some of you may have licenses that are expired for reasons outside of your control. If that's the case, please submit what you have, and your provider services specialist will follow up with you. We just ask that when your license is no longer expired, that you send it to us so we can have an updated copy on your file.
Okay, for insurance, this is often the trickiest of exhibits. All of these requirements are in Article 7 linked in the exhibits checklist. So please reference this and share it with your broker. Make sure we can see all of the items that that clearly on your certificate of insurance that you submit. And the clearer you can be, the easier will be for us to move all of the exhibits along. Also a reminder to please only submit your insurance certificate, and we don't need the full policy. So coverage should include general liability, professional liability. This is often included in general liability, so if it is, that's totally fine. Just please ask your broker to make a note of this. Workers' compensation, fidelity bond or criminal liability. You'll need fidelity bond if you have employees handling finances. Auto insurance for owned vehicles. If providers are taking children on SEPTA or chartering a bus, you do not need insurance. And if you intend to hire a vehicle, just make sure that they have the appropriate insurance. If you intend to rent a vehicle and you are driving, you'll need the appropriate auto insurance. Just to go over the rest of the tips on this slide, you want to make sure to reference Article 7, list PHMC and the city on your insurance as well, and the information for our addresses and the correct way to write it out are on the right-hand side. Insurance, make sure your insurance has not expired, especially workers' compensation. You make sure you have adequate coverage for each required insurance component, and that you list each location on the insurance document if coverage is for a legal entity. And then if you provide services to School District of Philadelphia students or in a school district facility, please include the school district as well on the insurance.
All right, thank you, Carrie. Good morning, everyone. The next exhibit I will be detailing will be the program calendar. Providers should schedule a minimum of 180 days of PHL pre-K services between September 1st, 2023 through June 30th, 2024. Please note that early dismissal days are not included towards that 180-day criteria. Additionally, snow days or provider scheduled cancellations must be made up to ensure the full number of days of operation are met. This next slide, it shows a sample of a PHL pre-K program calendar. It includes 180 days of programming. It begins on or after September 1st and ends on or after June 30th, 2024. Specifically, the start date for this one is September 5th, 2023, with an end date of June 14th, 2024. And as you can see, they are clearly identified, as well as any school closings and holidays. We really just want to emphasize and make sure that when you are doing your program calendar, you do leave an adequate amount of wiggle room just in case, emergencies or unscheduled closings, just to ensure that that full 180 days are met within the date parameters we have set. Okay, so moving to the next exhibit will be the kindergarten transition plan. Kindergarten transition plans will be needed for all children turning 5 for the following school year. This is a Philadelphia School District requirement. We really want to make sure you as providers are engaging with your families to help them understand their educational options as they move on. Kindergarten transition plans need to be created within 60 days of the child's entry date. It will document activities scheduled throughout the program year to support transition to kindergarten and to ensure the child is registered by June 1st. There will also need to be kindergarten transition meetings held with the families to discuss their educational options, and they need to be held by January 1st. This is to ensure that the families receive the information about catchment and out of catchment deadlines. OCF typically develops resources to share, and this includes information about the school district as well as charter deadlines. Please confirm your kindergarten registration is completed for each applicable child and document in our childware system where they will be attending school by May 31st, 2024. In our next slide, here is a sample of a PHL pre-K kindergarten transition plan. This is the template. It's also linked in our checklist that we provided for you. Please note for all providers, if you plan to use this template in our submission system, the open water, you will be able to attest that you are using our template and you will not need to upload your own. However, there is an option to use your own. We just want to make sure that it does meet the requirements, such as the date the plan was created, the child's name, the parent or guardian of the child, and the staff that's completing this plan. It will also need to include all person or persons responsible for the activities, the target dates, as well as the completion dates of those targets and all tasks throughout the year. And please remember that all the required deadlines need to be in the childware data entry. All right, our next exhibit is the daily schedule. There needs to be 5.5 hours per day of developmentally appropriate instructional time for each PHL pre-K day. That should include at least 60 minutes of physical activity. What's not included in the 5.5 hours is arrival, departure, and nap time. If any part of the PHL pre-K day occurs before 7:30 a.m. or after 4:30 p.m., a written request must be submitted to PHMC for approval by OCF prior to the classroom opening. You can send your request to phlprek@phmc.org and also inform your provider service specialists throughout the process. Our next slide, we provided you an example of what a schedule might look like. It does include the 5.5 developmental hours, but you'll also see how nap time as well as arrival and dismissal have been X'd out as they do not count towards your total hours. Additionally, if returning providers, you can attest that nothing has changed from your previous schedule in FY 2023. Moving to our next exhibit will be the attendance policy. Providers, you must have an attendance policy. Your policy should include overall developing strategies to help maintain 85% average daily attendance. There needs to be clear procedures that deliver and document the support that mediates chronic and consecutive absent issues if they occur. The policy establishes a guided support and resources to the families when absence are due to hardships. Slots will be held for 30 days for children who have an improved extended absence due to long-term illnesses. You cannot discharge a child without making every effort to communicate with the families as well as your provider service specialists to assist in overcoming any barriers. Additionally, we want to ensure your policy references the following specifics. A child should begin in the program within 7 days once their enrollment has been approved by PHMC. Identification process families need to take in order to be notified if a child will be absent from their program. The policy must adhere to the Center for Disease Control, Office of Child Development and Early Learning, the City of Philadelphia, and Caring for Our Children guidance for health-related exclusions. A child who is absent for 30 days or more without prior approval from the program director and PHL pre-K intermediary may be discharged and placed on the wait list if they're interested and will be able to re-enroll if a slot becomes available. If you have a child that has been absent for 30 days, you should communicate this to your provider service specialist so it can be reviewed. Chronic or extended absence, either excused or unexcused, will need to be reviewed by OCF and PHMC on a case-by-case basis to determine if that child is eligible or may need to be discharged. Returning providers, you may attest that this hasn't changed as well from your FY 23 in the submission platform Open Water.
Okay, on to your enrollment policy. Much of this information should be familiar as it was reviewed in the enrollment training. There is a sample policy available, needs to include the references on this slide, which are also in the exhibits guideline document. So first, you'll need to outline eligibility requirements, clearly identify that PHL Pre-K is a free program. It does not require any additional fees associated with enrollment of the PHL Pre-K program or additional application information besides the PHL Pre-K application. So that means no fees associated with supply lists, lunches, or trips. Clearly outlines the program's process and priority for enrollment, includes time and procedures for notification of enrollment to parent or guardian within 24 hours, includes a time frame for the child to start in the program within 7 days, discusses additional funding and wraparound care option as needed by the family, and explains the priority of waitlist applicants, follows the order of received completed application materials. As a PHL pre-care provider, you should be communicating regularly with families and caregivers using various methods. This includes creating a system for reporting about a child's progress and getting feedback, using language and platforms they can access, and providing ways for them to help in planning events, training, and workshops. The family grievance policy is another exhibit that needs to be developed, and this outlines the process to address a family's concerns. A sample policy of this is available, and it needs to include the references on this slide. It needs to include the steps you want families to follow to resolve issues or concerns, identifying the staff members that will receive the grievances, the communication for families to document their grievances. So would you want that by email, a letter, or do they need to complete a form? A timeline that will be used to resolve all grievances, the strategies you'll use to ensure confidentiality of families, and also the strategies you'll use to ensure that all families filing a grievance will be treated with fairness. Providers are not permitted to suspend or expel a child, and you must have a suspension and expulsion policy as well, which is another exhibit. If a provider determines that an enrolled child possesses a risk to the safety or well-being of other children or staff, the provider will need to communicate this concern to PHNC and their contract entity. If folks need support in developing your suspension and expulsion policy, Sparks Quality Support Center can assist you. And we'll talk more about information about Spark supports at the end of this presentation. Also sharing here OCDL definitions for suspension and expulsion as a reference. And we just wanted to highlight the resources that are available, the OCDL resources. Please use these, consult them when developing your policies. And also there's going to be a professional development around inclusive classrooms over the summer. So that was the last of exhibits, and Brittany will go over some of the other information needed.
Thank you so much. As we all are preparing for contracting, there are some FY24 fiscal forms I want you to be aware of for submission. Mainly new providers, as in this case, will need to complete and initiate your direct deposit as soon as possible, if you haven't already done so. An ACH credit authorization, a voided check, and a W-9 form will all be needed for submission. Your PHMC provider specialist should have already requested these, so please reach out to them. For returning providers, if any of this information has changed, please reach out to your specialist as well. This may include any ownership or new bank accounts that was newly acquired. Some other documents to note will be the subcontractor questionnaire and the code of conduct. As you can see, here is a snapshot of what the questionnaire will look like. And basically you can download it from our checklist, which was in the links that we provided. And the questionnaire simply just details questions around your business status and your workforce diversity. Additionally, we are also asking for a code of conduct if you have one. We ask that you will be able to upload that in our open water platform. And it's in response to the ongoing impact of trauma, violence, on our children's behaviors. We really want to understand with which providers have codes of conduct for parents and their staff. These codes of conduct are intended to support providers as you navigate any complex relationships that may impact a successful behaviors which we wish to accomplish. If you do have a code of conduct, we ask that once again that you do upload that in your exhibits. If you do not, which is completely fine, there will be Sparks training available to help you support in creating these, and that will come at a later time. And then once again, we just want to emphasize to use the exhibits checklist as well as the exhibits guidelines. They outline all the resources and expectations needed for the deliverables that we need to submit.
We can stop here for any questions that you may have on the exhibits themselves. We'll
Carrie,
give
we
it-
do have one question. Which you may answer a little bit later.
Sure.
We have a question about when will the access be granted to new providers?
So we are hoping to send out a link very shortly to the open water system, hopefully by early next week. But as a reminder, please start developing your exhibits now. We'll show you in just the next section about what the open water system is, and it's mainly uploading your documents there. So you'll need to develop them all outside the system.
And that, I think, is the only question that we have right now related to the
Okay,
information.
so we'll move right
Mhm.
along to the next section, but please, if anybody has any questions, keep writing them in the chat box. Okay, so we'll go over a preview of the open water system, and again, that link will be sent out hopefully by early next week. And Theo will start us off.
Okay, so I will be showing you a snapshot of what open water looks like and what the submission form itself looks like. So when you receive the link for the submission, when you click on the link, it will take you to this page and you will click the Start an Application button. After you click that, it will take you to creating an account. So you will just need to input your email address, your first and last name, and you will need to create a password. Please make sure that you note somewhere what your email and your password are that you've used, because you will need that information to save, resume, and edit your submission. So after you create an account, you will be taken directly to the exhibit submission form. You will just need to add basic information like the name of the person completing the form, your email address, and your legal entity name. And then it will ask you for your site name and the address where children will be served. You will also need to add your Childware site ID. That can be found in Childware on your home dashboard. You should have already received an email about activating your Childware account. If you have not received that email, or you received it and your activation link is expired, please send an email to the help desk so they can create a ticket and get that fixed for you. And their email is posted on one of the later slides with all the contact information. You will also need to add a contract signatory. You'll need their name and email address. And this will be the person who is authorized to sign your PHL pre-K contract. So after you fill out that information, you will be asked if your site had a PHL pre-K contract in the last year, so the 2022 to 2023 school year. If you are a new provider location, you will say no, that your site did not have a PHL pre-K contract last year, and you'll need to submit a form for each PHL pre-K location. After you click whether or not you had a contract last year, the exhibits will pop up and you will be able to select which exhibit you would like to upload. And then once you select that exhibit, there will be an option to upload it. And just as a reminder, all of your documents need to be in Word, PDF, or Excel format, and the system will not let you submit them if they are in a different format.
Okay, for the kindergarten transition plan, you'll be able to test that you're using the PHL pre-K kindergarten transition template, or you have the option to upload your own. If you choose that upload your own button, there will be a pop-up right underneath for you to be able to upload that document. Then you'll be asked to submit the subcontractor questionnaire, and a link to the form is included here. It's also in the checklist as well. And then you'll be able to upload a code of conduct if you have one, or say that you do not have one. At the bottom of this page, you'll see a save button and then also a save and finalize button. Save allows you to save and continue working. The system will save automatically, but it's always great to save every so often. You can also press save and finalize. And what this does is it submits your form. And then the review of those exhibits can happen by PHMC or Spark. You don't need to wait until you've uploaded all of the exhibits to press save and finalize, as some exhibits may take longer than others. You'll be able to go back into the system, go back into your form and edit your exhibits, or upload more exhibits until the deadline. After you press that save and then finalize button, you will see this confirmation email come through the email that you have the account under. And it basically says, thanks for submitting your exhibits, and we'll be in touch and providing feedback on those if needed. If you want to edit, revise, or upload more exhibits to your form, you'd log back into your account in OpenWater, and it would take you to your submission form. You can click, there would be a yellow strip at the top of that form, and then you click here to make edits. That's in blue at that yellow strip. The system allows you to upload only one exhibit, one document per exhibit. If you need to revise your documents or your exhibit, you need to delete the original submission, and then you just click that little blue trash can box right there that the orange arrow is pointing to. You delete that exhibit, and then you can upload a new one. And for those with legal entities submitting applications for multiple PHL pre-K sites, you can copy a submission form and edit the appropriate fields. So after you submit a completed form, you can go back to your dashboard, click on the completed applications on the right-hand side, and then click on click on completed applications on the left-hand side, and click on copy on that right-hand side. And then it would copy that form, and you can modify it to the different site that you want to submit for. Okay, so I see we have a few questions in the chat box. Do assistant directors have to prepare exhibits? Exhibits need to be prepared for each PHL pre-K site. So you just need one set of exhibits for PHL pre-K site. And that's, you should check with your director on who should be completing those.
And Carrie, can I also just comment too that
Sure.
for multi-sites, right, there may be some exhibits like the policies may be the same for each location. So it would just be, you know, uploading that policy for each location. All right, we
So,
also, go ahead, Carrie.
oh, no, go ahead.
There is also a question about watermarks on some of the documents. So there are indeed watermarks on several of the documents. The checklist itself says for review, the samples, and the samples have sample across them. Right, I don't know if there are other watermarks that folks are seeing. I'm not seeing them. So if you can be specific about which of those templates you're seeing a watermark on. If there is a sample that says sample, the expectation really is that you are developing a policy that is specific to your organization and that you are not resubmitting the sample. Those are just there for you to, as an example. So, you know, the policies that you develop should really reflect your organization, your organization's vision and mission, and what the expectations are for PHL Pre-K.
Okay, and yes, this recording and the slides will be available in the provider weekly update that comes out on Friday. So please look out for those. There's another question, what should we enter for site name or address if you have multiple sites? So you're going to need to complete a form for each PHL Pre-K site.
And as Carrie shared, right, there is the option to copy, right, a submission so that you would not have to re-enter, you know, information. And when you copy a submission, so for multi-sites, as I shared, if there are policies that are the same across all sites, right, those actually will come in for the copy. You will not have to re-upload them, all right? You would have to remove it and upload a new one if something is different for a specific location, but otherwise it will come over as is.
And there are some of those items that will be different, like your line item budget, your
Right.
DHS license, and some of those. So you'll
Right.
need to make sure you modify.
Yeah, so do pay attention to that and then update the fields in the form, right? The location name and address should be updated accordingly so that they represent those the DHS license and the line item budget that you're submitting, right?
Okay, why don't we move along to the next section, but please continue typing in questions in the chat box if you have them. So we'll now go over waivers, remote learning plans, and staff qualifications. So requirements for PHL Pre-K include using creative curriculum for your curriculum. Teaching strategies gold for your outcomes assessment tool. And for developmental screening, you'll use ASQ3 or ASQ SE2. Waivers can be submitted to use alternative curriculum or tools. Waivers must be submitted to PHMC and approved by OCF. We will be sending out links to waiver forms in follow-up communications as well. Curriculum and assessment waivers, providers no longer need to participate in PHL Pre-K for a year to be eligible to submit a waiver. This is a change from last year, so this is mainly just a note for our returning providers. And then for developmental screening, you need to participate in PHL Pre-K for a year to be eligible to submit a waiver. Alternative curriculum or tools must be on the appropriate OCDL list here. Providers that are approved for waivers are expected to be responsible for meeting PHL Pre-K benchmarks and covering the cost of trainings, TA, or coaching needed to implement it within your program. And waivers may be rescinded if you aren't able to maintain 100% compliance. PHL Pre-K services are expected to be offered in person in FY24, and providers should have a remote learning plan in preparation for any emergency closings. A program may not offer remote learning without an approved remote learning plan. And if you do not offer remote learning during any emergency closures, then you may not bill for those closed days. Remote learning plans will require approval by OCF prior to program start date. And all providers must confirm their plans for remote learning in the form that we'll be sending out in follow-up communications. You will be able to say if you want to submit a new plan, if you want to update your existing plan for those returning providers, or if you can also upload your school district approved remote learning plan if you have one. Okay, on to staff qualifications. PHL pre-K credentials are aligned with the state's career pathway. A child for PHL pre-K staff requirements, a child care center director or lead teacher must have a minimum of a level B on the career pathway. This also applies to owners or operators of family providers acting as lead teachers. And assistant teachers need to have a minimum of a level A or above. Here's that same information that I just went over on the left. So you'll see a director administrator needs to be at a B, family childcare owner operator also at a B, and also a lead teacher at a B. And then assistant teacher needs to be at level A. The chart on the right-hand side shows career pathway levels. Staff must meet one of the qualifications in each level to qualify to be at that level. So at level A, staff will need to either have a current CDA certificate from the Council for Professional Recognition, a current school age credential, or 9 ECE credits. To qualify at a level B, you'll need a regionally accredited ECE focused ASB or AST, an associate's in early childhood education, an associate's or bachelor's in a related field and have 18 ECE credits, have an associate or bachelor's in an unrelated field and have 30 ECE credits, or have an elementary ed degree with 12 ECE credits. If you have any questions about this, please check out the PA career pathway levels. They are on the PA Key website and can also be linked in these follow-up materials.
And the expectation is that all PHL pre-K staff, so those staff that are in PHL pre-K classrooms, would meet those requirements. We also know that over the last several years, there have been some staffing challenges. So to help to address those staffing challenges, OCF does have waivers available for staff qualifications for both the director, the lead teacher, and assistant teachers. This does also include family childcare owner operator that does not serve as the full-time lead teacher, right? So the a lead teacher position in a family childcare in the case where the owner operator is not serving as the full-time lead teacher. So in order to apply for a waiver, an individual must meet the following requirements. They must have a verified career pathway level of rising level A, and that's verified by the PA Key, and we will review this in the PD registry. Or if the individual has an entry level career pathway level, then you must apply for placement at rising level A once you've enrolled in an education program or a course of study, right? So that's what would move from you from a rising, from an entry level to a rising level A. That's enrollment in an education program or a course of study. So you must be active in attaining the required ECE credits or a CDA certificate. Individuals may already be enrolled in an education program, or if not currently enrolled, then must enroll no later than January 31st of 2024. And evidence of enrollment in the education program must be uploaded in the PD registry. That's how you get the verified career pathway level. Status of the enrollment will be reviewed in January. And if an individual is not enrolled, who may have applied for a waiver, then that may be rescinded. If you are applying for an assistant teacher waiver, the individuals must attain a CDA or 9 ECE credits within 1 year from the enrollment in the education program. And in addition to meeting the above requirements, then the individual also must meet the DHS requirements for the position that they're holding. So individuals that hadn't approved a waiver in the 2022-2023 program year, that have not completed the requirements for meeting the career pathway level, prior to September 1 of 2023 will need to reapply for the 23-24 program year in order to demonstrate that they are still actively engaged in attaining the credential that would meet the appropriate career pathway level. So just a word about the supporting documents that are required for the waiver application. So if you are requesting approval for a staff qualifications waiver, you are required to upload documentation to the PD registry that demonstrate that you are enrolled in an education program or course of study. And the supporting documents must include the individual's applicant's name, the name of the course, the beginning and end dates of that course, the number of credits if applicable, the name of the institution of higher education or the professional development organization that is, say, offering the CDA program. Examples of acceptable documentation include some of the following things, but of course are not limited to this, as long as the above information is included on that documentation. You can submit an itemized financial billing statement, Rising Stars tuition assistance acceptance letter, teach documentation that indicates approval from Teach, that you are in the Teach program, a transcript from the institution of higher learning, or a letter from the professional development organization that verifies that the individual is enrolled in the CDA program or has completed the CDA course. And again, that documentation must include the name of the individual, the beginning and end dates of the course, the name of the professional development organization. Okay. So there are some individuals also who were staff at PHL Pre-K locations or legal entities that had PHL Pre-K locations that may have met prior PHL Pre-K requirements. These individuals may qualify for a temporary exemption. The criteria for that are below. So for a director, administrator, or a family childcare owner, operator, or lead teacher, the individuals with a degree in AA or higher in a related field, but have fewer than the 18 ECE credits required for career level B, and were employed at the PHL Pre-K legal entity prior to July 1, 2022, which is when the PHL Pre-K requirements changed to align to the PA Keys career pathway. They may qualify for the temporary exemption. Similar for assistant teachers, if the individual has less than with at least six, they have at least 6 ECE credits, but fewer than the 9 required for level A and were employed prior to July 1, 2022, they may qualify for the temporary exemption. These individuals would also need to have a plan in place to ensure that you are working towards attaining the appropriate requirements or ECE credits for the career pathway level for assistant teacher or lead teacher, depending on which position you hold. So career pathway level A or career pathway level B.
Thank you, Leslie. So our next slides will talk about your resources and next steps for you as providers. PHMC will be holding virtual office hours to assist providers with contracts, exhibits, and the intermediary will be reviewing questions or taking about any questions about your waivers or anything related to open water or exhibits that we discussed here today. Please also remember that PHMC will be reviewing your program calendar, your daily schedule, your attendance policy, your enrollment and waitlist policy, the line item budget, your DHS license, and your certificate of insurance. To the right-hand side are listed dates and times for these open hours. They're actually Zoom links. So there's no registration required. Which date and time works best for you. Please log on. It'll be myself and Theo, as well as members of the provider services team to assist you. All right, and on the next slide, as we detailed throughout this information session, here are some important contact information and emails for you. Any general questions, we ask that you please submit them to the phlprek@phmc.org mailbox. Childware, as Theo mentioned, if you have issues with your tickets and getting in, please email the help desk. And anything that's specific to your site, we ask that you reach out to your provider service specialist, as well as the coordinator, to keep them in the line with anything that you may have questions or you can't think of at this time, but we're all on one page. And next, I'll be turning it back over to Tracy.
Hi, thanks, Brittany. So Spark is here to support you with in particular the development of the 3 policies that we are reviewing. So we can help you develop those. Also, once you have developed and submitted them, we can help you implement them. So our coaches are always there to help you with that. We can share resources related to all of these and help you engage with community events that are relevant in particular to enrollment. We also have specialists who develop trainings, and we have a training calendar. I just put all the links in the chat so you can see our calendar, you can see our knowledge center, but here's a list on the slides you'll see of 3 particular trainings that are relevant to the exhibits that we are reviewing and that you are developing or submitting. So I also want to say that one that's not listed here is with the Education Law Center, and it is around inclusive environments. So that's a great one to look at on our training calendar, which again is linked in the chat. We also have a knowledge center. I think that is linked. Do we have a slide image of that? There you go. So the knowledge center link is in the chat, but on this, all things early childhood are linked here, and they're categorized. So you can really find information and resources you need, including we will be updating all of the PHL pre-K resources as they're available here. So you can go here and find things. That search bar is really helpful in helping you find what you need. It's very agile. And then the next slide is just an image so you can see our event calendar. All those little colored blocks are trainings. We have trainings every day of the week except Tuesdays when our team meets, and they're free to you. You get Pequot credits, and there is also a request a training form if you want to have a training on site. So a lot of these trainings are in the summer developed to help you with all of these requirements of PHL pre-K to help you be successful. And we also have a help desk available from 9 to 5, which you can call. That is 1-844-QSC-PHIL. That's also in the chat. And if you get disoriented, do I call the intermediary or Spark? It's okay. We'll redirect you to where you need to be. We're all one team here to support you to be successful so you can keep serving children. And be on the lookout for an email from your coach, your individualized coach, who will be in touch in the next couple of weeks. And we look forward to getting to know those of you we don't yet know. And Brittany, I think I'm handing it back to you.
You are indeed. Thank you so much, Tracy. So overall, we know that we've given you a plethora of information throughout this information session. So here's just an overview of some important dates and where you need to submit those deliverables, those exhibits that we are requiring. As stated before, our exhibits are due July 31st, and that's going to be in our open water platform system. Any remote learning plans, and that's for all providers, as well as the developmental screening waivers, if applicable. They'll also be due July 31st, and there will be links that are sent out separate from this presentation to help you submit those. And then lastly, we have you need to make sure that you are updating your contact information. That is a specific FY24 contact form. We ask that that's submitted by July 31st. However, throughout the whole calendar year, if anything changes, we want to make sure that that is an ongoing updated form. Anything that such as staff turnover or any newly assigned point of contacts, we want to make sure that we have the most accurate contact for your site.
we'll also be sending, can we go back to that slide real quick? We'll also be sending out quarterly reminders around the contact information form. So look for that. Also, providers should be receiving the provider update, which comes out on Fridays, Friday afternoons. This is where we share relevant information. We will be sharing the links and information about the submission forms in the provider update. Additionally, I think we had a question in the chat box about going back to the slide that has the childcare help desk information. So where to direct all the questions at PHL Pre-K. Yeah, so we can just leave that up for a moment so folks can look at that. We will be providing the links to the PowerPoint and also recording to folks as follow-up to this session as well. Okay. I also see a couple of other questions in the chat box. So one related to the career pathway placement. So you should apply. So we understand that programs may still be hiring staff. If you do have staff on board or newly hiring staff, you do have a little bit of time to have folks submit their information to the PD registry for verification for their career pathway level. If you have staff that are already employed and they update that information, the sooner you get that information updated, the better. If applying for a waiver, as long as we can see that the individual has applied for career pathway placement, we will proceed with processing that waiver. Okay. And then, so how long is the review waiver process? We have a couple of team members enrolling in CDA that want to participate in the program. However, we held until, so if you can show that the individual has enrolled in the program, that's great. We would like to have as much of this information as early as possible for the waivers. We do actually accept waivers more on a rolling basis, but do want to have at least any staff that you have hired prior to the beginning of the program year to have those waivers reviewed and in place prior to the program year. So if you are interested in applying for any of the waivers, we will be sending the links to those specific forms as follow-up to this session, and you would click on the appropriate link. So if you're interested in staff qualifications, or you're interested in the curriculum waiver, for instance, you would submit specifically in that particular form. That will be a Cognito link. And again, after this session, right, if you still are not sure, you have follow-up questions, please do not hesitate to reach out to the general inquiry number or the PHL Pre-K at phmc.org email address, or specifically reach out to your provider services team specialist, and they can support you in how to navigate this process. So in terms of the curriculum, So you are receiving the curriculum. So Tracy, I think I might have to pass this question to you. I'm a new provider. Can I have the curriculum mailed to a different address to ensure that I receive it?
Oh, so that I was just getting text messages from the curriculum people. We're working, shipping is always a little bit tricky. So we're trying to send out, to put together something to send out in the next week or so to confirm the mailing address. So look for that and let us know. That would come through PHMC's newsletter, I think. But be on the lookout for that one way or the other to confirm your address. And we will do our best to get it obviously to the correct address. We don't want your curriculum kits going back and forth in the mail. So that's the best answer I have for now, but be on the lookout in the next week or two for opportunity to confirm your address.
And the intent, Tracy, is to ensure that folks have the curriculum prior to the program start, right? So,
Yes,
so over the
yes.
summer, you'll be receiving the curriculum.
That's right. If all goes perfectly, which sometimes it does and often it doesn't, we would be looking at May, August, like hopefully by mid-August at the latest. And some logistics we're working out, but that's the hope.
Great. Thank you. Okay, well, that is the last question that I see in the chat box.
Okay, great. Well, on behalf of our team and Spark, thank you so much for attending this session. Please feel free to reach out with any questions and get started on those exhibits. Thanks all.
Bye, everybody.